welcome to our BCS Women's event on the experiences of women of colour in tech. My name is Arnolda Siamanda. I'm Policy Manager at BCS, the Chartered Institute for IT, and I'm happy to be your host today. Just to do some housekeeping before we begin, this is mostly for those in the room. For those online, we do have media virtually present. We've got Computer Weekly covering this, nothing to be scared of, just FYI to let you know. And then fire exits for people in the room, behind the door, the way you came in, that's the way out. We don't have any planned fire alarm, that's the word, thank you, fire drills. So if you hear it, please exit safely. And then toilets behind the door to the right, that's how you get to the toilets. Help yourself to drinks and snacks in the room over there. Okay, so with that, hello and welcome. Can I start by saying Happy International Black History Month and Happy Pride Month. Woo! Double celebration today. So why are we here? Can you all hear me in the room? Yes, amazing, yeah, thank you. Our goal for today was to create a safe space. We wanted a space for you to meet each other, to discuss your experiences, your highs, your lows, your trials, your tribulations, with people who just get it, as simple as that. We wanted to curate an environment where women of colour working in tech can gather, share information, learn from each other, make friends and connections. But of course, there are people who don't get it, right? Why do we have an event exclusively for women of colour? We don't. Why can't white people be included? They are. Why is it even necessary in this day and age to have events like this? Why do we have to bring race into everything? I'm sure it resonates with people in the room, questions like that. For those of us who sit at the intersection of racism and sexism, it can seem so obvious, perhaps frustrating, that we still need to be explaining this in 2023. BCS released a report last autumn talking about ethnic diversity in tech in partnership with Coding Black Females. In that report, among other things, the women talked about the prevalence of a tech bro culture in technology that can create a hostile and exclusive environment for them as Black women in the technology profession. Being a woman of colour, it can be difficult to find a space of belonging in this profession. A place where someone advocates for you without having to create it for yourself, and often that is not done without a fight. There are groups dealing with race issues. There are groups dealing with women's issues. But what about those of us who have to deal with both issues? Who is there to help us? Who is there to advocate for us? The answer is often us. We have to do it for ourselves. It is often people like us who are faced with the responsibility of running DE&I initiatives. It is us who must repeatedly advocate for ourselves, sometimes to get the bare minimum. It is us who must make the most of the little we get and take it as far as we can. Am I making you uncomfortable? That's okay. These conversations have that effect on some people. But that doesn't mean we're going to stop talking about it. It doesn't mean we're going to stop taking up space and existing without apology and excelling in our chosen careers. No, today we are here to have the uncomfortable conversations, to ask the uncomfortable questions. Today, we are going to be meeting people who will support us as we grow in our careers. For those of you who are already advanced in your careers, we hope to learn from your experiences on how to overcome any challenges we may face, how you got to be where you are, how you did what you did. We're here to share in each other's company and expertise, to take that one step closer to making the experiences of women of colour in tech an enjoyable and positive experience, one that will encourage more women and girls of colour to pick up a laptop and pursue this career path. Thank you for taking the time to be here today, and I do hope you find this evening interesting and insightful. So the first thing we're going to be doing today are the lightning talks. We're going to have a group of really accomplished and exciting women. They're here to talk to you about their career paths, and this is when my clicker typically starts acting up, even though it was working a minute ago. Okay, the first speaker we have is Tanya Mahmood. Just a little bit about Tanya. After earning a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Mechanical Engineering, she undertook a 2-year technical graduate scheme at Aviva, not the insurer. Since completing her graduate scheme in January 2021, she has accepted a full-time role at Aviva. Her proudest achievement to date is achieving an EngTech accreditation from the Institution of Mechanical Engineers, winning a gold medal for science project in the energy category by defeating participants from 6 to 9 countries. Tanya is very passionate about STEM and loves supporting the next generation wherever she can to enthuse them towards a STEM career. Please put your hands together for Tanya.
Hi everyone. Okay, is that all okay? Things have changed now, probably, but anyway. Right, so my name is Tanya Mahmoud and I'll be giving a short lightning talk on my career journey. Let's go next. Oh, it's changed a lot in fact.
Sorry.
It's all right, it's not a problem. So why am I here today? I'm here today basically to give you, as I said, an insight into my professional journey, into my role that I have today, and just share some lessons learned along the way till I got to this stage. And I've got a globe there, which I was trying to kind of like showcase that there are influences on my upbringing, my identity, and who I am today. So I'm of Pakistani heritage, but I was born and brought up in Germany. Yeah. That's right. So I was born and brought up in Germany, and then I moved to the UK at the age of 15. So I've got 3 diverse cultures influencing me, who I am today, and I'm proud to say I'm also from Croydon, because I have such a passion for Croydon, and it defines who I am as well. So, right. So to start out, I am the oldest of 4 siblings. I've got 3 brothers. I'm the oldest girl and the only girl in my family, and I'm very competitive with my brothers, and I always wanted to break down cultural norms and stereotypes, etc., and decided to go into the STEM career. And I'm also the first and only woman, in fact, in my family to go to university as well and do mechanical engineering, which is completely male dominated, and there was a lot of uproar in my family, but anyway, I'm really glad that is. So as part of that, to like upskill myself and do things that I'm passionate about, I just wanted to give a quick overview of what I did. I did an A levels in German, psychology, physics, and sociology. I know German was a cheat subject, spoken, but anyway. And then I went to university and I was on a course with over 200 boys, with 10 to 15 girls, and we kind of created our own clique. But anyway. As part of all of that, and being the only one in my family to go to university, my network system wasn't really big. I didn't have connections. I didn't know what to do afterwards. So I decided at university to try and diversify my experiences and my skill set. And I was fortunate enough to do the 6-month project during A levels, which you mentioned about me going to America and beating 69 countries, and that was an amazing feeling. And that was a science project, and that really awakened a passion for me to go into mechanical engineering. And since then, I've done work experiences with Tata Consultancy, BP, and I did a 12 months industry placement with the National Competence Centre as well. Among all of that, I am very passionate about charity work as well, because it's given me all the skills that I wouldn't have known from a soft end side, like how to communicate with people, how to have empathy and emotional intelligence, and how to bring forward things that you're really passionate about and you don't see, and identify role models along the way as well. Wow. So after university, let's just ignore the slide. So after university, just to share a bit of an experience, I started job hunting like anyone else would do. I thought I had okay enough connections and skills and all that, but I was rejected many times. I was taken through the entire process to the end and then be told someone else had more experience.
So annoying.
And then I thought to myself, well, that person had more experience from the first get-go. Why was I carried through the process, It just didn't make any sense. And then never to receive feedback till one day someone decided to give me feedback, and the feedback was I was too dominant, I was too loud, too brash during the team assessment process, program or whatever it was. That impacted my confidence and my attitude towards talking to people so much. And even now, me talking to you guys, it's big step up for me, because I completely changed my approach to talking to people as a result of that, and I'm still learning to get better at it. you know, with the rejections and everything, I started basically not valuing myself, undermining myself, and my confidence started lacking. And to overcome that, I decided to stop and focus on my well-being and see what I can do to get over that, basically, mindset, come out of the tunnel and all that. And when I truly realized what I was bringing to the table, that's when I truly made progress. And then I got a company offer, a job offer I'm with still today after 4 years. And they were right for me. It was more about my values, identifying what my values were and which company matched up to that, rather than me trying to match to a company, if that makes sense. It's the other way around, and what they had to offer to me. And that's when I truly succeeded, in my opinion, and made results, basically. Just to give a bit of overview, the company is Aviva. I'm really, really proud and fortunate and privileged to work there. It's a global leading software development company in the world, and we're everywhere, basically. So we develop software for the engineering industry. It's used from the oil and gas industry all the way to the water and food refinery companies as well. And whilst I joined them, there's a lot of tech, so I'm just going to ignore all of that. I did a 2-year technical program because I wanted to learn software development after university, and Aviva gave me the opportunity. I didn't even need half the requirements of the job spec, you know, but here I am. And after finishing the 2-year graduate program, this is some of my team members, just to put it out there, and they're a lovely bunch of people. And I took on a permanent role as a cloud DevOps engineer, and my team has been encouraging me and to continue developing myself, doing training, certifications, and you know, they've given me all the support I needed. And it's such a safe space, and we are such a diverse bunch of people. And I truly feel really privileged to have the opportunity to be part of it, and it's really defining who I am. I'm now in the process of becoming a Scrum Master. They're paying for all of that. You know, companies they're a bit hesitant about these things, you know, upskilling someone who doesn't have the experience. So I'm really fortunate again to have the opportunity. Alongside of that, I'm able to dive into things I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm the global co-lead for Women Aviva with over 930 members globally, driving the change that I would like to see as a person of color, basically. And you know, I'm really, really focused on my continued professional development. I'm part of the leadership initiative as well, where they're upskilling people in the business, you know, having the opportunity to become a leader in the future. Okay, so to wrap all of that up, my key takeaways that I've discovered over the last 5-6 years is, you know, it's okay to break down cultural norms. You know, what you were taught doesn't always have to be true. You know, you identify what your values are and truly learn to accept who you are, basically, because at the end of the day, you are unique. There's not another person out there who's going to be like you, basically, and own it. And also in my personal life, I had to learn to recognize my privilege as well. You know, my privilege, I've got so many advantages over other people that I hadn't even realized till being exposed to such a diverse bunch of people around me. So that, and also navigating the inner critic, everyone's got that. You know, you usually do go through imposter syndrome and learning how to overcome that. And I won't go into too much, I don't know if I'm up. But anyway, so thank you for listening to my lightning talk. I've got my QR code there if you want to connect on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect, and also I'll be here afterwards, so thank you.
I think Tanya deserves another round of applause. Like, I read about the slides. And extremely well with sorry about that, the wrong slides. Heads up to the rest of the speakers, that was not deliberate, so it might be your fate too. Okay, our next lightning talk comes from Nicola Martin. Nicola is currently the head of engineering. Let me put Nicola's, this is Nicola.
Quality engineering.
She's the head of quality engineering at Adaga. I've just promoted Nicola. Nicola,
you gave her another department. Get me in
sorry. Nicola is the head of quality engineering at Adaga, a UK-based AI software company. About Nicola. Nicola is passionate about increasing diversity and inclusion in software engineering. She mentors and coaches professionals wanting to either change or develop their careers. Nicola is a council member at BCS. She's also a professional member of the Women's Engineering Society. She's very accomplished. So, Nicola is a speaker and panelist at events on diversity, women in tech, quality, AI, software testing, and mentorship. She's been included in the 2022 Computer Weekly Most Influential Women in the UK list, top 30. Woo! She has also been a judge at the UK Tech Awards and will be part of the judging panel for the Black Tech Achievement Awards of 2023. Please put your hands together for Nicola.
Hi everyone, I hope this is working. Can I use the ticker? Or
It wasn't working. You can try it though.
it might work for you?
It might. It might.
Is it sideways or up?
Side.
Yay! And it's the right colour. This is Okay, so I wasn't going to do a career journey, and then I decided I'm going to do one. So, but I wanted to talk about some of the lessons that I gained along the way. So yeah, we're going to. Okay, so we had a nice introduction from my oldest, so you already know who I am. But one of the other roles that I do, because I do quite a few membership roles for BCS, is I'm part of the committee for BCS Women, and I'm their inclusion officer. And I'm also an organiser for today's event, obviously. But I'm going to talk about my career journey and some of the lessons I've learned along the way. So yeah. I wanted to give you some facts. The person who actually has all the facts is not here tonight, unfortunately, but I gathered some just in case. So if you didn't already know, there's actually only 11% of people of colour in representation in tech roles in the UK. And altogether, when added together, it's 8% of women of colour representing in UK tech roles. And this is a stat that fluctuates each year, but it's to do with the number of women representation in UK tech. As a whole, we're only at 20%, and it goes up and down during pandemic and beyond that. It did go up a bit. I think it went to 21 at one point, but it's come back down to this. So we need to do something about it. And seriously, we need to work on our own representation. So we've got to get that over 8%. And in fact, if I break that down even more, I know that I think it's something like 0.7% are Black women out of all of that. So my career journey, this is how I started out and what happened and how I got into tech. Now, I've done a lot of jobs, and I've been working since full-time job since 1993. I'm sure you won't. But some main points. I went to school, sure you all went to school. I didn't do any university, not at first. And I went to work at 18. Before that, I tried my hand at college, I tried to do exams at school. I got GCSEs, ended up having to resit them again, didn't do A-levels, couldn't figure out why, because in class, I was acing it. It made no sense why I couldn't sit exams, why I got so anxious. I had huge anxiety. It shocks me, as Tanya said, as to why I do all the speaking and events I do now. Because I know back then I was a complete and utter mess if I had to do any kind of presentation and any kind of exam situation, I just couldn't do it. So no university for me, but what I did do and loved was working. I loved working, and in fact, at school, I actually had 3 part-time jobs because I loved, 1, earning money so I could go out on a Saturday, and and 2, because I just loved the focus of work. I had random jobs, restaurant, worked on a stall on a Sunday selling records, and worked in a newsagent a couple of days. So, I just did loads and loads of stuff, and I always wanted to have tons of things happening. So, for work, when I did finally go to work, I ended up being a conference organizer in my first job for CBI, Confederation of British Industry. I tried my hand at TV presenting, and there's a video. I'm hoping it's just on VHS and never online, but I was on Channel 4 a couple of times. So yeah, and then I gave that up because actually I nearly got a job with Nickelodeon, and I didn't want to give up my proper day job because I thought I wouldn't be able to pay my rent every month, because they only wanted to give a 3-month contract. So I gave that up. But I've also worked in TV post-production in some random job, and I've worked for an advertising agency as well. And this is all before I even got to tech. So what I do know now is that not completing my degree did not mean that I failed. That's really important because I felt like a failure and an imposter for a long time. But I know the reasons why all of this was happening, and that's a completely different conversation and different presentation. But working did give me huge focus. So eventually, after all of those roles, maybe beginning of the noughties, I fell into tech by accident. I got a temp role and actually went to work for, at the time it was GlaxoSmithKline, and worked in their R&D and PLC teams, and I was a project admin, but they actually realised I had other skills, and I was being mentored before mentoring was a word I'd even heard of, by one of the systems architects. And he said to me, "You've got a really analytical mind. Have you ever thought about becoming an analyst? Have you ever thought about doing testing?" Because I was looking at all of the work that was going to other business teams and testing systems basically, and I didn't know it had a name. So I decided that, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. And they gave me the chance to do that. And after that, I did an exam and decided that's my role I'm going out into the world as. And I did all of these test roles over the years as a contractor and permanent staff, right up to the one that I have now. So I've done head of QA, head of quality engineering. It's all kind of the same thing. But in between that, while I was contracting, I've also been a business analyst, data analyst, and a project manager. I love the data analyst type things. The way my mind works, I'm really into data, and I love to analyze everything about it. So it makes sense that I do the job I do now because I have an analytical mindset. So to this point, I can't believe it, but I've got 23 years experience in tech this year.
That's good.
And this year and last year, I made it onto Computer Weekly's most influential women in UK tech. But this year, I volunteer a lot. These two will tell you I'm always doing something. And I've mostly volunteered with BCS, to be fair, but I do work with groups outside, and in fact, I'm about to start working with another one. So, I do a lot of volunteering. I mentor as well through BCS and privately, and if anybody wants any help afterwards, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. And I'm a speaker and also panelist, and I am doing judging now and again as well. But one of the biggest things that happened for me last year was Global Tech Advocates book, The Voices in the Shadows 2, that I was featured as one of the 51 women within the book. My little boy saw this, and it's the first time he actually took me seriously. "Mummy, you're famous, you're in a book." And my mum was so proud, she wanted to buy copies for everybody. To see my mum proud, considering my mum's doing a PhD in children's studies, and she's 63, and my brothers have all got degrees, and I don't, and I consider myself brainier than all of them. But, when I see my mum happy when I do stuff, it inspires me and pushes me even more. So that's one of the reasons why I keep doing it. And my little boy, sometimes he's interested. Like when he saw the book, he was interested, and sometimes he thinks it's really cool that I do stuff. Like tonight, he was really excited that I was doing this, but more excited to play Sonic, so I left him to it. So some of the lessons I've learned. It's okay if you haven't followed the normal path. So if you haven't done uni, you haven't, followed the path that everybody else seems to follow nowadays to get into engineering or into tech, It doesn't matter. If you've come from something outside of tech and you think you want to get into it, just go for it.
Yeah.
In fact, people with like marketing backgrounds do really well going into tech, and there are lots of other areas where your skills are really going to, play a big part in your career going forward. It's really important to build a network. I used to network quite a lot when I contracted, but I found when I was in permanent work, I just didn't do it as much. But actually, it's important the whole way through your career, because people at different times will help you with different things. And then you can also connect to their networks as well, and it just gets wider. And in fact, since I started volunteering, it wasn't one of the things I expected to happen, but my network has just exploded.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect that. And also mentoring as well, which I'll come to in a sec. But the skills part is really important. Don't put all of your eggs into one basket. Try and be varied. I think when you're a contractor, you do that naturally anyway, because you want to be available for all types of work within your area. But I think when you're permanent, you tend to be siloed and only look at the job that you're doing. But it's really important, especially now, that you have a variation of skills, because you never know when you might need to go into a different, like sideways into a different role. It's always better to be ready than not. As I mentioned about mentoring, for me, being a mentor has been amazing. I get to hear about all of the things that people are experiencing, all of the skills that they're learning. It helps me to learn quite a lot, which I didn't expect that to happen. And I just love being able to speak to people from different backgrounds and find out how, they've experienced tech, basically. And I really encourage everybody here, find a mentor, and find somebody. You might even need to find more than one. I know people who've got 2 or 3. It depends on what you're trying to achieve at the time, and it might be a short-term goal, or it might be a longer-term goal, but you can work that out with them. It might even be that you just have a single question. If you find somebody on LinkedIn that you've been following for a while and you think that they're brilliant, I'm sure if you just email them and ask them your questions, they'll answer them, and that's a form of mentorship as well. Create opportunities, because I don't know everybody else's experience, but as a woman of colour, you'll see like awards and things come up and you'll think, gosh, nobody would nominate me. They will always allow you to nominate yourself. Do it.
Yeah.
Get into the habit of putting yourself forward for stuff. This generation loves to be like, I think like everybody wants to be known or seen. You need to be seen, I think, to put your head above the parapet, if you've got the confidence to do that. And if you don't, have some soft skills, training and stuff to work on things like that. But, if the opportunities are there, push yourself if you feel confident enough to do it, or work with somebody to help you to move towards a goal like that. Join other women in tech groups. There are loads of them. And yeah, I just think, you've got to create your own opportunities, because people are not going to hand them to you. You've got to do it for yourself. And also contribute to the community is really important. If you've got some time, give back, and don't wait until you're mid-career or towards the end. Do it now and get into the habit of doing it, because that kind of giving back also brings things to you. That energy is returned. And like I say, you learn so much, and there's just so much opportunities that maybe wouldn't even fall to you, but actually will when you're contributing to the community, because you're also in that process growing your network as well. And that's it. That's the end of my life. Links and everything, and I'll speak to you all afterwards. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Our next lightning talk comes from Joe. This is Joe. Joe is a software engineer, as I have in my bio here. Joe is an accomplished software engineer with over 4 years' experience working in the quality assurance field. Her experience extends across both the public and the private sectors, with extensive experience in the Ministry of Justice across multiple digital transformation projects, as well as her current experience at Ito World, a private transit data company, giving her varied experience within the role. Jo's key interests are in manual testing as well as process improvement, but she also enjoys mentoring and peer-to-peer growth, both within and outside her company, often using Twitter and social media as outreach to grow her network. Follow her. It's going to be on there later. I've lost my place. This is what happens when you try to do something. Jo is frequently featured in tech webinars and panels, playing an active role in the online tech community, having recently collaborated with Birds Eat Bug and the Ministry of Testing. Jo's aspirations are to continue to explore the role of QA and facilitating insightful discussion within the test community, bringing people together and using her voice to encourage others into the industry. Jo is currently learning Python to develop her skills in automation testing. Please put your hands together for Jo.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to even be here today speaking to you. It always excites me to speak about my career journey because I know how it feels to be like considering working in tech and not really sure what to expect. And I've been inspired by a lot of people before, and the fact that I'm able to give back today, it just gives me a really warm feeling. Yeah, thank you. So I've been asked today to speak about my career in tech. And I put 2018 to present because for me, 2018 was the year where I felt my career really took off in terms of navigating into the tech space. I never expected it. And you'll see when I show you my career timeline, how I kind of stumbled into this career path. So before I start telling you about how I got to where I am, I'll give you a brief background about myself. So I'm Midlands raised, specifically Derby. I have lived in other cities in the UK as well, basically wherever work has taken me. Spent a few years in London and I currently live in Peterborough. I'm Jamaican heritage. Any Jamaicans here today? I've worked in tech for 4+ years. My experience has been in the government sector and currently in transport. And like as already mentioned, I'm a software test engineer and I've been doing that for the past 4 years. Oh, I feel like the pitch on the right needs some explanation as well. I included it for a reason. So that was me last year. I went to Mauritius on holiday with my partner and I was climbing a mountain. I think it was called Mount Lapus. It's in the northern western region of Mauritius. And I didn't quite make it to the top, but I got quite far, got far enough. And the reason I included it is because it's a reflection of how my career journey has been. I've had some highs, I've had some lows. It's been a struggle at times, but I'm still going. And at one point, I hope that I can reach the top and be at my peak. So yeah, I thought it was relatable. So a question I get asked a lot, to be fair, is how did you get into tech? I'm sure a lot of the women that are already established in the tech space get this question a lot as well. People seem to be curious. They want to know, what steps did you take? Have you always had a passion for tech? If you were to ask me when I was younger, you know, do you see yourself working in tech? I would 100% have said no. Because the thing is, I knew what I was passionate about. I knew what my strengths were. I've always been quite good with people. I'm a sociable person. So I knew that was a strength of mine. I've always been curious about the world. I've naturally gravitated to subjects such as sociology, humanities, history, and I've enjoyed them. I went on to study those at college, university. I followed the same subject area. But I guess tech was something I was aware of, but I never saw how that could fuse together with my interests. So I just rejected the idea of it. But that all changed after I graduated from uni. So the best way to illustrate this was through a career timeline, which I've done here. I'll just breeze through it really quickly because I have more exciting things coming from the next slides. So you'll see 2016, that's when I graduated uni. My degree was in applied social science, so a combination of sociology and politics. And I got my first role, it just happened to be in the tech industry. It was for a managed IT services company. And I was a new business development executive. It sounds nicer than it was just doing sales. And then in the year 2018, that was like I mentioned, a pivotal point for me, because that's when I realised that, hold on, maybe my people skills can mesh well with tech. And maybe that is something that I need to investigate. So that's what I did. I took some time out from working and I thought I need to think where I want to take this and if it's even feasible. And it was. I happened to find a graduate scheme called Sparta Global, and I did everything I could to get through there. It was a very difficult process to get into, but I got there and I worked there for 2 years. As part of the graduate program, they did like an 8-week program. It was really intense, and I was able to get my certifications in manual testing and business analysis. During that period of time as well, that's when I got my role at Ministry of Justice, and I was just there as a junior, just like a sponge, really getting all the information I could from everyone there. And then that leads me to where I am today at EatoWorld, and I'm just a mid-level tester. You know, I'm quite established now. I help juniors on my team and I'm enjoying it. Outside of work, I also have hobbies that do align with tech as well. So I do QA mentoring and tutoring. I'm quite active within the tech community on Twitter. A few people know me from there as well. I co-host webinars and I do speaking, stuff like this. This is my first in-person speaking event though. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. And who knows what the future holds. I'm excited to see. So in my 4 years of testing and working in the tech industry, what advice can I share with you today? The truth is I have so much advice and tips that I could give, but obviously limited time. So I've tried to condense them into 5 key tips that I think will help you in your tech career. So the first tip, I've got some notes because I don't want to miss anything important. So tip 1 is stay open-minded. So by this, I mean, just don't be too tunnel visioned. In tech, it's very varied. You'll have different teams and just be aware that everything has an impact on something else. So the work that you do has an impact on another team. And just being conscious of that can really help you have better visibility. Even for me as a tester, while I'm doing my job on my immediate team, if I hear of a problem that another team is facing, straight away it's like, okay, maybe that's something that could impact me. Maybe I should do some investigating and put in some preventative measures. So it's just something to be aware of. It will help you. And also be curious about other people. Don't just focus on what you do. Find out what other people do in their role and if there's a way that you can help and support them and vice versa. Tip number 2, think critically. So by this, I mean, don't just accept things at face value. Do your own investigation and research. Just because someone tells you something, don't take their word for it. If you work in tech, for those that already work in tech, you'll be familiar with Agile frameworks, and they encourage you to reflect constantly. So that's something that I would give you a heads up on. Always think about how you could improve. Even if a process is working great, think how could it be better? And share it with the team and vice versa. If you feel like something isn't quite working for you and you've got an idea, just share it. And people really appreciate your input on that. Tip number 3, take your time to learn and don't rush the process. So I've noticed a pattern working in tech, especially when we get juniors. They're so hasty, they want to learn everything straight away, and I'm like, just slow down. Just take your time to let things marinate. For me, train of thought. Oh yeah, for me, some elements of my job can be quite tedious and boring. And when I've had juniors work with me before, they're like, oh, do we have to do this again? They want to progress quicker. And it's like, no, just keep doing it, because with practice, that's when you're able to master the skill. So just do it anyway. And be patient with yourself. Oh yeah, I've came across a lot of tutorials on YouTube, like learn code in 2 hours, or 24 hours, and you'll know everything about testing or whatever. And just don't fall for that trap. Like, those resources are there to help you, but you shouldn't be so dependent on them. Nothing, it's never going to be that quick and easy to learn. Just take your time with it. My fourth tip, don't rely on a single resource. So this piece of advice was given to me from a really good friend of mine called Adrian. He was working in tech way before I started working in tech. And he would always say to me to diversify your knowledge. If you're learning something, don't just read a blog and think, I know it now. Try and get the information from a book, look at, listen to a podcast, a YouTube video. Just try and make sure that you are getting a rounded picture and it's not just one-dimensional. And that's why I use Twitter actually, because when I have questions and things I would like people's opinions on, I post it there, I get quite a lot of people responding, and I'm like, okay, that's how that person handles it. Another person has suggested this, and it just makes me more rounded as a person. And my final tip for today is don't be afraid of making mistakes. I've seen first-handedly how sometimes, especially for women, I don't know if it's worse for women. I've noticed a pattern, but don't let anyone intimidate you or make you feel like you're not allowed to make mistakes. It's normal. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. And even the people that seem to be really skilled, they make mistakes too. So the best advice I can give is just make your mistakes and learn quickly from it. And as a final note, there's going to be times when you're the only woman of colour in the room. And what I'd say to that is to stand tall, you deserve to be there. When I worked at Ministry of Justice and I would see women of colour in high positions, it would always make me feel so proud of them because I know how much harder they would have had to work to get there and be respected in what they do. Embrace your quirks and your uniqueness. When people look at you and they look at your background, they might have predefined conceptions of what they think you're going to be like. And as we know, we're not all the same just because you're from a particular race or a cultural background. We're all different. So just be who you are. You don't have to subscribe to what they expect you to be. Speak up if you feel like you're being disrespected, if you feel like something isn't fair, if you feel like something could be improved. Just say it. Don't hold it back. Reject perfectionism. I was guilty of this for years. Throw it in the bin. It's not going to be useful for you at all, especially in tech. It's all about working smart, and no one's going to get things perfect. And within Agile anyway, you're constantly improving. So don't aim for perfection at the start. And lastly, think big. You're way more capable than you think. And that's the end of my talk today. Maybe I look forward to speaking to you at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo.
That's lovely.
Okay, our next speaker is she sent in a recording of her speech because we are a global network of women of colour in tech. Our next speaker is all the way in Canada. This is Shika. So just to introduce Shika, Shika is an award-winning author. She graduated with a master's degree from the USA and started working in the IT industry. Shika has addressed different issues in the tech world through her speaking engagements at international tech conferences. She's now dedicating her time to generate awareness about IT and tech in the younger generation. She was listed as the Agile Testing Days list of 125 awesome testers to keep an eye on in 2017. Her goal is to see substantial growth in the number of young girls choosing IT and tech careers worldwide in the next few years. She's also the winner of the Dan Pointers Global eBook Award in 2021 in the Technology Engineering Nonfiction category. She was first place, gold medal. Woohoo! So this is Shika's speech, and fingers crossed the technology cooperates. Okay, there's no sound, right? Hang on.
It's kind of frozen as well.
Okay, I might need to. So I'm gonna echo. Okay.
Maybe mute.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
So if you can mute the screen.
Hello. No. Okay. Nana, can you come in? Oh, Sam is here to help us.
Okay.
Thank you, Sam. I think we're doing well to run into technical difficulties at this point in the night, to be fair. It's a lot later than I thought we might get it.
Yeah, we did start with it, so that's good.
That's a win.
I have around 10 plus years of experience in the QA world. I am currently working as the QA automation lead for Artisan Studios. Been a keynote speaker for various conferences all over the world. I also write technical articles. And today I'm actually going to talk about a very important topic that I think as women of color, most of us have already experienced it or at least heard of it. Microaggressions and workplace tension. I think it should have been microaggressions cause workplace tensions or somehow how microaggressions are related to tensions. But anyways, moving on. So usually when you think about microaggressions at your workplace, they are categorized into one or two main areas. For example, verbal microaggressions or physical or behavioral, right? But I think, according to me and based on my experience, you cannot just categorize them into one or two areas. I think that microaggressions are just these very subtle forms of discrimination that most of the times we as women do not really, make out the meaning of these gestures or these simple actions or the comments. And later when we think about it, like, oh, that's what he meant, or that is exactly what she meant, right? It's happened to all of us before, correct? Now, all these microaggressions do not just trigger a reaction from you. Sometimes they're just built up because you've given the chance for your colleagues or your team members to allow them to even make such comments. It could be on your race, religion, or the way you work, or anything for that matter. Even simple, for example, I know we are past the office era, but for example, even if you were heating your food, which maybe stinks or smells in a different way that the others are not used to it, I would also consider that, that I could see how that could lead to a microaggression. Now, according to me, I feel that they come in various forms, right? It could be verbal comments, non-verbal gestures. These make the other person uncomfortable, right? Now, if you feel that you're being treated differently or unfairly just because you belong to a certain race or based on your background or your gender or any kind of sexual orientation, I feel that these microaggressions build up and they indirectly or directly affect the way you work. I believe that in 2023, you should not be judged based on all of these external factors. And I think you should be judged based on how you work and your ability to do the work. Now, it's very important that you address this problem. And before you want to think about how to address the situation at your workplace, I think as women, we need to know how to even identify when someone's actually, contributing towards this aggression that's slowly building up in you at your workplace. It could start with a joke. It could just start with a simple happy hour. You don't even know that that's a huge, that's a bad thing or a comment that you should even think about, or any gesture that could have been, very casual. But somehow, if you cannot point out a single thing or at your workplace or any reason that's actually contributing to your stress, to your mental stress, then it's definitely microaggressions. These are all these tiny little, I like to call it as stress areas or the stress comments that actually make you stressful and make you think about, why is this happening to me? The work's fine, everybody's cool, everybody's chilled at work, everybody around me is fun, talented, but somehow I cannot place my thumb over a particular reason that's actually stressing me out. That's where microaggressions, I think that's when you should start thinking about to what degree you've let these various forms affect you. Now, again, I feel that it's all on the company culture, and that companies should not just focus on diversity and inclusion. Yes, that's great. You are doing everything you can to give an opportunity to everybody from different backgrounds and different strengths and everything. But what are you doing about your own employees that are existing? And what are you doing about handling these kind of situations? Now, one other important thing that I'd like to point out is remote culture. Now, when you work in a traditional office culture or an office setup, you meet someone every day, you have lunch with them, you have meetings with them, and it's easier to find these gestures or these verbal comments that are affecting you that you think is contributing to your stress or your mental pressure. But when you're working remotely, it is very difficult to identify this, because you cannot directly see if someone's actually talking about something hurtful or something that shouldn't be spoken about, or something that is going to affect you in the longer term, right? So what are you going to do about it? First of all, how would you identify microaggressions in a remote setup? Mostly it's going to be text. It's going to be very evident from the voice, the audio, and the text, the way someone texts. Now, I'll give you a very good example. I come from a company that is 100% remote, right? And something happened with a coworker of mine, and we did not agree to one common point, okay? And that's okay, because you don't have to agree 100% of the time, right? And I followed up the next day, and I'm here texting this person on Slack, and I say, hey, is this okay with you if we go forward with this? I don't get a reply for a few minutes and hours. I get it, everybody's busy. But then next time that I get a message from this person, who is actually at a higher position than me, replies to me saying, whatever, it's fine if you want to go ahead with this, since you guys have already decided, but just make sure that you're keeping me in loop. Now, I can take this in two different ways. One, I can just take it very casually and say, yes, he's super busy, he did not have time to think about it, and that he's okay, and he or she is actually accepting my points or everything, or my reasons for that particular decision. Or I could look back at my history with this particular person and think, did this really mean the way I took it? Like, it could have also sounded like, yeah, whatever, you guys have already decided, just go ahead with it. I'm not happy with it, but fine, and then just keep me in the loop, right? So there are two different ways of seeing things. Now, text is that. In audio also, even if people, if you have your video on policy with your company, I think that's great, because you get a lot of cues, and you can identify a lot of these issues right then and there. But let's say if the other person isn't having their video turned on, and if you have to identify these factors that are contributing to microaggressions, then you think about how that person is sounding. Is that person sounding rude, or is that person just casually joking around all the time thinking you aren't going to react? And if you've already identified all these cues, audio cues and visual cues, or through texts or whatever in your remote place, what's the next step that you're going to do about it? As I know, we have been blamed, like as women, we have been blamed for a lot of different reasons, and sometimes for a variety of reasons, right? Now, if someone's not taking you seriously, especially about these microaggressions, bring it up in a different way. And I know that it's not always easy. It is not always easy to speak up about such different situation and difficult situations. And I know I've already written an article about how to speak up at your workplace. And I know that it gets very difficult, especially to bring up things like, hey, this person spoke to me rudely, or I know this person didn't mean it intentionally, but I'm kind of offended by it, right? So there are different kind of things. What I would suggest is sit down and think, how would you react if someone else approached you saying, hey, I have this issue and I want you to do something about it? Or sit down and think, how would you react, or how would you want someone to speak to you if you were that person who was inflicting these ideas or these hurtful comments on others without even knowing, like unintentionally? And how would you want the other person to approach you and tell you, hey, this is wrong? Now, if you are someone who is in the HR or who's someone responsible for creating policies, I would suggest working on such policies that specify ways of communicating with colleagues and ways that do not really hurt someone, someone's race, dignity, religion, or anything, or any background for that matter. And I would ensure that you try to make the office culture or your remote work culture in a way that is welcoming, that anybody could walk up and tell you, hey, I'm actually very uncomfortable with the way this X person treated me, or I thought this was very hurtful. I'm okay with it because I know what that person did not mean it intentionally, but I would like to see if you guys would do something about it. So things like that, just these simple things can make a lot of difference in your world. I hope this really helped. Good luck, everybody, and thank you for this opportunity. Bye-bye.
Super. We are here for our last lightning talk of the day. We've got Nena Stevenson. Nena is a product manager and business analyst in software development with about 10 years experience. Nena is a member of BCS and an immigrant who's moved. Okay, so we are running over time.
Sorry.
That's okay. And I think the panel has been adjusted, yes?
I think so.
Yes, okay.
Sure.
So for my panelists online, we sincerely apologize. We're going to have to change how things work a little bit. I know we said that we're going to finish at 8 o'clock online, so if you've got places to be, I understand. Thank you for coming. If you can stay for a little bit, please stick around. We're going to do a Q&A. We're going to skip the discussion straight to the Q&A, open the floor to both people in the room and online. I'm going to invite our would-be panelists to come forward. Nicola Martin, please come forward. We've met Nicola. Park yourself at the front there, please. And then come on through. And then one of our panelists that we've got on hand today, her name is Kavita Kapoor. Yeah. And while Kavita makes her way out, I'm going to introduce her. Kavita is an award-winning technologist focusing on AI and education. Her current portfolio covers, listen, she's like super busy. Yeah. She is the Chief Technology and Product Officer of Elias Robot, a founding member of the Federation of Human Technologists, Senior Lecturer of Product Management for Emerging Technology at Code University in Germany. She half lives in Germany, half lives here, half lives in Finland. Amazing. She's a founding chair of the BCS's Pride Specialist Group. And she is a coder and a software architect for organizations like the BBC, Channel 4, ICL, Fujitsu, and she was a product manager for the 2012 Olympics here in London. And she's just super amazing. Pick her brain. That's what this Q&A is here for. And then I'm going to, I was meant to be going down with my slides. Tristy's on the screen.
Yeah.
Hi, Tristy. Can you unmute yourself, or do I have to invite you to? You can unmute yourself. Woohoo! Tristy Tanaka on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. I've got her bio here as well. Tristy has worked for 25 years with technologists on transformation and change across the US, NGOs, and UK public sector organizations. She's humbled to have been named in the Computer Weekly's top 50 influential women in the UK. Yeah. Join BCS, people, and the UK Tech Long List. She's passionate about equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Yeah. Focused on opportunities to share a platform to give a voice to the unheard and unseen. I'm shortening it because we're short on time. Sorry. And then we've also got Barbara in the room. Yeah. Barbara, I've got your bio too. Woohoo, Barbara! Barbara Wallington, she is a business analyst and diversity champion. She was born in Ghana. Anyone here from Ghana?
Oh,
Make some noise for Ghana. She was born in Ghana, but she moved to the UK and she's got a business and management degree from Northampton. She's worked for the British Embassy. She's got an MBA. Amazing. She's traveled all over Southeast Asia, and she has started a network called the Obapa Ladies Club. And Obapa means good women in Twi. I think if you want to join, you can join the Obapa. It's spelled OBAAPA, OBAAPA, Obapa Ladies Club. Hands together. Okay. So we're going to do a Q&A. Stick your hands up, put it in the chat. And while people think about that, I'm gonna have one that was pre-submitted. This is typical, I think, for women, unfortunately, that we have to deal with this, but it's a reality. And the question is, I would love to know people's experience with balancing life and work life and personal life. During my time working in tech, I've observed how intense work can get, high workloads and long hours, which many times infringe on family and home life. This is something I personally experienced, and I can't imagine how difficult it would be for women with young families. So can I ask my panelists, how do we balance being a working woman, for those of you who are mothers and a mother, or for, just being expected to be a traditional woman, how do we balance that with professional career and ambition? I'm gonna start with our online panelists, if that's okay. Barbara, you're already unmuted. Can I start with you?
Of course you can. Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for this privilege to partake in this session. So I'm not a mother yet, but I do have, nieces and nephews that I sometimes, volunteer to help with. And how do I balance my work life with my family life? I do have a very active family life as well. A husband with a very demanding job, traveling overseas, like globally. So there is that element of responsibility, additional responsibilities that comes with my job. How do I balance it? I think the blessing that comes with being a woman in IT is that, and especially in an agile world, is that we have the ability to prioritize our responsibilities and our work. And that's how I manage both my work life and my busy domestic affairs. I have to plan ahead, just as we do at work. I plan my work life, I plan my home life, and I also plan my travel life. These are the three components that consist of what I do. And then I prioritize them a week ahead. And every Sunday evening, I look at my weekly plan and I reprioritize it again. And that helps me to be able to and I've also got an investment, that I do, a part-time business that I manage. So I look at all these four quadrants of my life, and I prioritize them to make sure that I'm able to achieve a percentage of each. And I do have a chart that tells me what percentage in this quadrant do I need to achieve this week. So by having that view, a clear view of my responsibilities, I'm able to juggle a load of stuff to make sure that I'm being, productive. I'm being creating value for pretty much everyone who's dependent on me. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Tristy, can I invite you to come in?
Yeah, I wish I had the same sort of nous that Barbara did, because I'll tell you, I had two teenagers, still do. And when they were little, it was very difficult. So if I were to give advice to my younger self, I would have said, make sure that I try my very best to find time to find those who could be part of my support network, if you like. To find those other parents who might be able to do some sharing, for whether it's play dates or picking up or dropping off, to have other arrangements to try to put those in place so that it would be a little bit less hectic doing the school run or going to the childminder. To go and make that during traffic was always a bit tricky. Actually getting to know those who might be looking after your little ones, to give them some context that you are a working mom. I did a lot of that on my own, so it was also a bit tricky, balance all of that. And quite frankly, if there are women out there that are looking for a bit of extra support, having a sounding board for when the days go really wrong, I think that would also be really great too.
Yeah. That's good.
Thank you, Kirsty. Kavita, can I invite you into this conversation?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I got, I think BCS Women started about 20 years ago, is that fair? Something like that? Or maybe 15, I don't know. But one of the first things they did was they sent us a leaflet and said, this is what, and some of the advice that I heard today has been around since then. So there's lots of new advice I heard today, and I wish I had it back then. But one of the pieces of advice they gave us was outsource things that you don't want to do around the home, especially around the home. So get yourself a cleaner and do what we were saying here, which is build that into your price point. If you know, if £25,000 is not going to get you a cleaner, get yourself a job that's going to get you one. I mean, it's not a thing I want to do, but there's other things around that, around maybe childcare, or the kind of childcare you want. Start building that into your budgeting and make that work. The other thing I would say at work is don't ask permission and own your own diary. So really get to grips with owning your diary. Like start thinking about, so I do have parenting responsibilities. I am not a parent, but I want to be there when he comes home, and I want to spend half an hour with him, which actually is about 4 o'clock every day. Not the most ideal time in the day to take a break, but I'm going to do it. And I put it into my diary. If you're not in a job where you can do that, start working with the people in your team and see that you can work with them to negotiate that. If you happen to be in a place of responsibility or in power, one of the things I did when I was COO was we put in a block of time that allowed all parents in the organisation to do pickup, regardless of whether they were parents or not. We just put it in, allowed everyone to say this is going to be time that you can have. We won't have meetings during that time. I hope that helps.
Thank you, Nicola. I know you are a mum.
Yeah. Wow. I would say since the beginning of the lockdowns, I truly learned what it was to be a mum, because I think before that I had left my little boy with my partner or taken him to nursery and, you know, rushed off on the train and didn't pay any attention to anything until I got back home from work. Once the pandemic hit and my situation changed, I had to look after him, so I really know what it is. But actually, I've really taught myself to take the time that I need to during the day. I get all my work done. Ria's probably seen my little satchel that goes up and says that I'm doing the school run or something. I do all of that and I let people know that I'm not going to be around. I block out my diary when I need to. I work later when I need to. I start earlier if I need to. And, you know, it all fits in. But, you know, yes, like Kavita said, if a job doesn't pay enough to cover childcare, I wouldn't consider it. I have all of these things to think about now. So, yeah, it's definitely something that's big on my radar, you know, in terms of career and move, you know, potentially if when I took this role, I thought about it. If I took another role in the future, I would think about it. You know, it's really important that you're taking jobs, not just because essentially you love that thing, because I think I've grown out of that now. I contracted for a while, so like Nena, I thought about, you know, what am I actually getting from this? But also now I think about, can I go on holiday if I have this job? Can I afford to go on holiday, pay all the bills? Everything's going up, as we all know, you know, so you have to think about those things. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come to you. That's okay. That's okay. I appreciate the keenness. Keep it up. So just to round up the question, I think lots of women do worry about the whole work-life balance thing. My takeaway from our 4 panelists is build networks and community to help you when needed. Know your worth and fight for it in terms of salary and, you know, what you can, what you need to pay for. There's no shame in seeking help. Outsource, get a cleaner, get a cook, get whatever you need to help you make your life manageable, and be assertive and firm with your boundaries as well. That's how you can manage work-life balance as a woman who also may have parenting responsibilities. And the lady with the headband has a question.
Hello. My question is around how do you manage doing sort of like diversity inclusion work in your job when it's not actually your core role? So something that I find quite frustrating at work is because we are women of colour, I think a lot of us feel like we have a responsibility to give back to our community, which is great. However, I feel like it's quite unfair on us if we're doing all of this work on the side and don't really, maybe recognise, we might get recognised for it, but it's almost like we're doing extra work and the level of reward doesn't really match up, especially if you feel like your organisation doesn't value it as much as they probably should. I know it's quite a loaded question, but what do you think about that, and how would you approach being in that sort of
I have an
situation?
answer for this.
What do you have
If
an
you want
answer?
to go around it to
No,
anyone
no,
else.
no, go ahead.
There was a massive thing in the States, I don't know if you heard about it last year, about women of colour being asked to, head up diversity and inclusion initiatives at work. And there was this realisation when people started talking to each other that none of them were getting paid. Unless it's actually a role that they did full time, they weren't getting paid for it. And it turned out in a lot of cases, according to this article, that it was because companies needed to appeal to their investors. So investors were insisting that they had DE&I initiatives in place. So they quickly just scrambled to find people to take it on without actually putting the money in place to hire someone. And so there was that pressure put on people to take those roles on, and that unfortunately fell to people of colour, women of colour within companies. But it's a massive thing now that people's eyes have been opened. If you work in that space as an extra thing alongside your job, I think you're doing it because you really, really want to do it and you care about doing that. Don't feel that you ever have to take part in an initiative that you don't feel comfortable doing for the company you're working for. I do a lot of my stuff externally and for BCS because I love them all. I do it, and I do it for other organisations because I'm passionate about it. But don't feel that you ever have to, and don't let anyone press you into it. It's not what they're paying you for, as Lena would say. At the end of the day, that's not your day job. It's a lived experience for you. You don't have to do it for them for free. Don't do it.
Just to build on that, get them to pay you. So you've dropped one of at least a couple of my employers today. They will get a bill as part of this because they got name dropped and part of the work I do. I think also. So at Code University, for example, I actually built it into my job. It was part of my interviewing process with them that said, we're talking about decolonising the curriculum here. I'm really interested in looking how data is biased in AI, especially towards people of colour and women, and LGBTQIA plus folks as well. And so taking those pillars, I ensured that it was within my role to sit on the DEI committee. I'll come back to that committee in a second. The other thing I would say is when I wanted a job at the Olympics, I really wanted a job at the Olympics. I spent several years getting there. I finally got a contract and I still wanted a job to stay for the full period so I could do the games. I joined the LGBTQI working group so I could get a job, and it really helped. I talked to my boss about it, and he kindly said, yes, of course you can do that. But I would have done it even if they hadn't put it as part of my contract. And the reason was I got to speak to the directors. The person who chaired it happened to be a director. And invariably, when I came to negotiate my contract with them, they all had to have a conversation and was like, yes, we need this person. As it turns out, I was the only woman in that group, so they really needed to be on there. So that really helped. Just coming. Did they pay me? I'll go back and check my timesheets. I can't remember. Just coming back to the Code Universities committee, I actually specifically have decided I'm not going to head it up. We've gone through a real transition recently. And I wanted to say that one of the things that I think is really important for me, and especially where my career is at, is to make sure that other people who need a voice, who need to be on that platform and get paid, I do work for them to get paid, can take those roles. So we've been working really hard to make sure that we got a full-time person into that role, because actually it is legislated, just as you said. So in Germany, you have to have someone at a university doing that role. So we made sure we've got budget, and then I've found people that I think should have that platform. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. I'm quite conscious of time, so I'm going to move on to our next question. I'm sorry to my online panelists, but my question is going to come first to you, so you get a chance to answer this one. This is from someone on Zoom, and they said, what suggestions do you have for women to get into tech as a secondary career? I forget I'm not a native English speaker until I have these moments. Barbara, I think you said that you pivoted into tech. What advice do we have for women who maybe get to, 30, 35, 40, and they want to switch it up and they want to join tech? What advice do we have? Could I go first to Barbara and then to Tristy, please?
Of course, you can. Thank you. That's a very good question. And I do have a program coming up this coming Friday. We've got a global, tech guru coming to give a talk on Obapa platform on how to transition into tech, and my tips from the experience that I've had in over 100 people that we've supported to get into tech in the last 2 years is that, first of all, get to align your values and your interests. There are many aspects or arms into, within the tech industry. So you can get in as a business analyst, tester, product owner. Because of the introduction to, of Agile, Agile has introduced a lot of roles. There's loads, there's enough slice of the pie for everyone to eat. What I would say is align your interest, look into the tech industry, look at the various roles that present itself to everyone, and align your values, your interests with the particular role that you want to be in. Look for mentors or coaches. Go on LinkedIn, set up a LinkedIn account, look for coaches, people that work within that environment, start asking them questions, join platform. There are loads of WhatsApp platforms and loads of, digital platforms that are free to join and take an active role. When you join, introduce yourself and tell them what you want, where you are now and where you want to be, and ask for someone to coach you or to help you. And I believe that in no time at all, if you put in the work, you will get there. Speak the language, start familiarizing yourself with the lingo. It's really, really important. And then align experiences that you have with the particular aspect role within tech that you want to embark on or to be in. Start learning the language, start reading literature, and you'd realize that you'll soon pick it, and then do some short courses as well that will help you to bridge the gap to getting in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Tristy, have you got any advice?
I think I would add on to what Barbara's just said as well. So there are loads of boot camps out there. Not all boot camps are the same, so watch out for that. Yeah. There's a lot of massive open online courses as well that are free. It gives you a chance to try something out. It's low effort, no cost. It's your time, though, that is cost. And if you have a mentor or a group of women or folks that you can get to know to help you while you're navigating, because there's all sorts of Slack groups still. Meetups are also a way to find local folks that are meeting up around particular technologies and product roles that might be helpful. A lot of people are volunteers, so you have an opportunity then to connect with people who want to be involved and network with others. There are various programs out there for returners. So it may be about brushing up and building those skills. Again, if you are bringing across work from before, you can then look at how you can use those transferable skills. I'll make a big pitch for BCS Women. We'll be doing we've done some taster sessions. Those are on our YouTube. So you can just go to our BCS Women's webpage to get the past ones. And then, of course, we'll have some ones coming up this year. So look out, because we'll be really keen to hear what folks are looking for.
Super. Thank you so much, Tristy. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to skip you two this time to balance the scales. We're going to take final question of the evening from the lady in the back.
Hi, thank you for your advice so far. My question is, often women of colour, when we have burnout, it manifests differently to those around us. How do you handle that and navigate that? Because it often leads to overworking. How do you say no, kind of?
That's a great question. So great that I'm going to give everyone a chance to answer, but I'm going to give you 90 seconds to do it in because we've not got time. Okay, who looks ready? Kavita, woohoo.
So I don't have an answer, sorry. But I wanted to make a point when I was listening before, which is that I've suffered from fibroids, which disproportionately affects women of colour, especially black women. And as a result, I went into menopause as part of the process of recovery. And that is early, but it's not early because I'm I'm a Asian woman. And so normally it happens in our 40s, and for white women it happens at about 52 onwards. So there's a lot going on between the health system here that means it's affecting women of colour disproportionately. So I think I just wanted to call that out here because that's really affected my career over the last 4 or 5 years. It's why I have a portfolio career. It's why I reduce my hours. I can't keep up with Nicola. I want to, but I really can't. And I look at a lot of balance. But I don't have a specific answer for you, but I'm still looking, and I've been doing this almost 30 years. So I'm hoping I'll get something from someone else.
I may be able to answer it a little bit. My experience of burnout actually happened around 2013 when I was working in banks. I was working at Barclays in Canary Wharf. And
Barbara.
Really?
Barbara's nodding. No,
thanks to and it was possibly the worst time of my life. My dad had just died, and rather than taking time off, I just threw myself into work because it's how I cope with everything, and don't know why. I will not retire. I'm sure I'll keep working. And I actually was passing out at work. Once I passed out, I was in the building at 11 o'clock at night, and Starbucks downstairs was still open, and I went downstairs and I passed out in front of the Starbucks, and somebody picked me up, and I thought, this has got to stop. And I actually took time off at that point. So there's only been 2 points in my life, or 3 points when I took time off. Wow. Once was then, and I had to force myself to do it. Then when my partner got cancer, I took time off then. I took 10 months off. And then when I had my little boy, I obviously took time off, but I actually only took 9 weeks off. It's like the concept of burnout doesn't seem to happen with me, but I see it in other people, and I really beg them, take the time you need to, look after yourself, because you've got a long career ahead of you. The government wants us working forever, and pensions getting further and further out. So you've got to look after yourself. You've got to look after your mental health, your physical health, and just your well-being in general. And just, this whole working ourselves into the ground for companies that might make you redundant tomorrow. Think about it. It doesn't make any sense. When you're younger and you want to impress everybody all the time, I think it's something that you do. But maybe as you get a bit older, you'll think about it and realise, what have I actually got from working for all of these companies except money? So you really got to look after yourself first. And it's a bit like that analogy about planes. Like if you've got, when you're on a plane, they always tell you to look after yourself first. Before the baby or the child or whatever. And I never understood it, but now I get it. And you really do need to look after yourself. And I know I've only got 90 seconds, so you can...
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Barbara.
And thank you. Again, what you said absolutely resonates with me. I was in the banking sector as well. I was flying high. I think for RBS, I was the youngest African. When I say African, I mean African woman to be promoted into business banking. I flew into a relationship bank manager. I was managing 5 different areas between Cambridgeshire and Northampton. I was flying, I was doing well, but I did burn out. And what I did, I just pulled the plug. I think it was very harsh because sometimes it's family members as well, because they're looking at all the benefits that comes with being in that position. You're earning money. I'm talking about getting bonus of thousands of pounds and knowing that you're not going to get that anymore, but you only have this life, one life, and only you are accountable for your welfare. So pull the plug if you have to pull the plug to recover. Yes, do it. And secondly, speak up. So what did I do? I'm earning, I'm not ashamed to say it, I'm earning probably half of what I was earning as a relationship bank manager, but I sleep at night. I'm sleeping better at night. I don't have the high lifestyle. So adjust your lifestyle to whatever you know, whatever sacrifice you'll have to make to live and live well. Yeah, so I don't fly business class. I don't travel 6 times a year anymore, but it doesn't matter. I don't buy clothes unnecessarily anymore. None of those matter. I'm happiest. I sleep better, and I'm able to achieve a lot more outside having to work so hard for somebody else to gain. So speak up when you're tired. In my current job, last week I said to my boss, I'm tired. And she said, take 3 days off. So don't be afraid. Luckily, the good thing about the world, that the agile world that we live in, is it does encourage communication as well. So don't be afraid to tell your boss, I'm tired, I'm burning out, I need a break. And take it. If they don't listen to you, don't be afraid to change jobs. There's loads of opportunities. Believe in yourself and just switch off and look after yourself, because mental health is mental wealth. Thank you.
I like that. Mental health is mental wealth. Thank you. Tristy, can I invite you in for the last word, please?
Just a quick one. I think it comes in at taking stock. So if you already are saying, you know, what do you do to avoid burnout, you probably are on the road to burnout. And I think that time to figure out what it is that is most important to you is essential in that process, because it helps you then prioritize what needs to be done next. I have mentioned to quite a few of the women that I work with and that I've mentored is to try working on creating your own career budget to give you a bit of savings, if you like, a rainy day savings to enable you to feel more confident to be able to take time off if you do. And if you feel psychologically safe with your manager, to be able to have that conversation. And you start with the list of all the things you're doing to be able to say, and now I need a little bit of help here, because the additional things you're asking me to do, which one would you like me to take off the list? And because I want to do it all, but I actually can't.
Super. Yes. Okay, thank you so much to everyone. So my just takeaway from our last little talk was live your life and live it well, right? Literally YOLO. It's 2012 again, but like prioritize yourself and your health. I think many of us can relate sometimes to the pressure of being children of immigrants, of being immigrants ourselves and having to prove yourself. Nothing wrong with having ambition and targets, but don't let that come at your own expense, at the expense of your health and your well-being. So that concludes our event today. Thank you so much to everyone who came, both virtually and in person. We're really, really grateful that you've taken the time out of your day to be here. I would like to thank first all my speakers, my panelists, my lightning talkers. Thank you very, very much. Without you, this event is not what it would have been. I'd like to thank BCS for giving us a platform to make this happen. Thank you to BCS Women for sponsoring us with wine and snacks and goodies, which you can go and get on your way out, because the office is technically closed now. We've overrun, but we have the food, so grab it and go. Do keep an ear out. We will be doing something like this with more time, so we can have more time to get to know each other and engage. Link with us on LinkedIn, and we have put our names in the chat. Link with each other on LinkedIn. That's one advice that I can give to you. Absolutely have no shame on LinkedIn. Add strangers. I do it all the time. I slide into DMs. Some ignore me, some don't. The worst they can do is just ignore you. It's fine. Have no shame on LinkedIn. It works for you. I would really, really like to thank my co-organizers and co-hosts, Nicola and Nena. They have worked. Yes. They've worked really, really hard for months. Since October we've been planning this, and they've worked really, really hard.
It's earlier than that. Remember, I was on holiday.
We were trying to do it in October actually, so it's been like, a long time in the planning, and they worked really hard to reach out to all of you and get you to come along. So thank you very, very much. You know, like I said, grab a sandwich. Kindly be on your way. Get home safely, look after yourselves, and thank you for coming. Bye.